opinions and views expressed in the following program are those of the speakers and the host, and do not necessarily reflect those of Yoakley Scott Corporation and your sports network.
Yeah, I've been closer to Jesus before, so can you help me out? Oh, can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Can you help me out? I've been scared to look in my soul. I've been afraid I would follow the road. Yeah, afraid of the things I've been told.
And hello, everybody. Welcome inside a jammed pack. Look at this episode of Wrestling Wednesday on Running Point, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. Top right-hand corner of the screen there by Mr. Christopher Colucci. We call him Fur. How you doing, buddy? Thanks for coming on. Gary Altizer below him, and then below me, Scotty Mincher. We're all here for Wrestling Wednesday, episode 13 on Running Point, and we have a very special guest with us today as well, getting ready for state himself from United Local in Hanoverton, their own little community, their own little world down there. Dallas McCracken bringing a joy to us. Dallas, how we doing today, buddy?
Doing great. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, and you got it. We couldn't have a Wrestling Wednesday without our buddy Dallas, man.
Well, Dallas, this is your senior year, and we know what happened last year. You made some upsets. You surprised some people. You got to the finals, and you lost a heartbreaker 3-2. I can't imagine you're thinking about anything else but being at the top of the podium. Tell me about your mindset right now. How are you feeling heading into this weekend?
The mindset of those weekends just gotta compete, just work hard, make sure, do my things, make stuff happen.
Dallas, one of the things I have for you is, Gary just laid it out how last year went and how you got so close, made some upsets, and that taste that you had of it really came back this year. It felt like you were always so hungry to get right back to it. How hard was it getting through that season, just like constantly having the hunger to get back to where you were last year?
Well, this year, I didn't have as many injuries that I did last year. So this year felt a little bit more easier in the practice room. I wasn't so sore, injured, just feel much more healthier this year in the practice room and competing.
Dallas, coming into the state, we have 10 one-seeded wrestlers, and 20% of that is McCracken's. What's it like having your sister being at the shot with you, both going in as one seeds? What's that like?
Competing with my sister and her also being up there with me seems pretty good. Last year, me and her both made history with her placing third and I'm placing second. And hopefully we can make even more history this year if we both get into the finals.
So I was checking out your bracket. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys in that bracket, if I did my math right, that you've wrestled already and you've beat. And these were some crazy close matches. Edwards from Conneaut, you beat 3-2. Thomas from Harrison Central last season, you pinned at the buzzer in the third period, but I think it might have been tied when that happened, or, you were up by 1. Riggenbach from Dalton, you won 6-4. I think that was an overtime. McKeon from Black River was 2-1. And Congdon from Indian Valley last season, you pinned him quick. You got a lot of matches with these guys. You've seen these guys. Do you feel like that's going to make your path a little better? You got more confidence heading into this bracket, knowing you've wrestled half of the guys here?
Coming into the bracket this year, it's just got to have that good mindset, just one match at a time, if you don't think about if you overlook a match, you could always lose. Like what I did last year at districts last year, I overlooked a kid, lost in the quarterfinals, and ended up placing fourth at districts, and then turns right around and plays second at state. You just have to have that good mindset, the competitor mindset to just think about one match at a time. And the way I wrestle, I don't really care if I go out there and beat a kid 8-0 or something. I'm just out there. I'm completely okay with winning one 2-point matches.
And one of the things that I always ask wrestlers when they come on, because it's such a mental sport, obviously we know all the physicality that goes into it, but at the end of the day, it's just you and the other guy on the mat. There's no one there to save you. It's all about what you're doing. Talk about your mental game and what you do to get in the right mental space and how much it's made you a mentally stronger player and person.
Kenny would like to call me, our coach Kenny. He always calls me like a silent killer because I don't talk before my matches. I don't even listen to music. I may listen to music for during warm-ups and stuff, but as soon as that comes like the competition, I just stand there. Once it gets about my time, I put my headgear on, I stand there. May jump around a little bit to get the blood flowing, but I'm just thinking that it's me, myself, and I out there on that mat, and I'm going to dominate out there.
Dallas, switching sports a little bit, you're going to play YSU at football next year. What made you come to the decision of going to YSU?
Competing up at YSU for football, it's always been a dream of mine to play D1 sports, and it just came up with the right opportunity with YSU, and can't beat free education.
Yeah, so you're headed there to play football. So this potentially could be your last week of competing in wrestling. Is it feeling a little bittersweet right now for you? I don't know if you plan on doing any more wrestling after this, but it's got to be a little bit tugging at your heart.
Oh, yeah, it definitely is tugging at my heart a little bit. I dumped my life in the wrestling for the past 5 years and just had that goal in mind of becoming a state champion ever since I started wrestling. And it is a little bit bittersweet, but I'm ready. I want to bring it on.
If you go and you win a state championship, that would mean a lot to not just yourself, but also the entire United community and the school system at United. Talk about what it's like to be able to represent United, the school system, the community that we know is so good down there in Hanoverton.
Representing United is pretty good to me because they've always been behind me with sports and stuff, especially with Coach O as the athletic director and the head coach. He's always been there helping, and I give him all the credit for bringing wrestling here to United. If he would have never brought wrestling to United, I would have not been where I'm at now with that sport. So United stands a pretty good push with me.
Now, Dallas, in the back of your mind, I know you don't want to be thinking about, you're taking it one match at a time, but, if you do win state and you do go out on the high honors, what's that celebration going to be like? You going to shake his hand, get your hand raised? Is there something you got planned? What's going to be your celebration? Do you have something in mind?
Me and the coaches always joke around, like, if I do end up winning that state champion, I'll go up and I'll throw Coach Kenny, throw Coach Litza or Coach Kiko. But I'm just going to play it cool, shake his hand, get my hand raised, and then go hug my mom.
And then go throw Coach.
Yeah.
Hey, instead of throwing him, can you please pancake Kenny for us all? I think that would be more entertaining. Just
yeah,
one
maybe.
give him a good pancake on the mat.
I might. Who knows?
I promise you. If you throw Coach Kenny, that'll be on every platform we can get it.
Yeah, it would definitely be.
Speaking of Coach Kenny, he's done a great job at United. You guys always have a bunch of kids on the team, almost always fill every weight class, which is not easy. I always ask whoever comes on the show, who your training partner is, who's your drilling partner. Do you have a go-to in the room? Is it one of the coaches? Do you have other guys that are your go-tos, or has it been somebody different every year?
When I was a freshman and sophomore, we had Payne Brereton in there, and I practiced with him a lot. And then since he graduated like sophomore year, or not sophomore year, junior and this year, they brought in Bodie Kiko. He was a 2020 state qualifier. And they brought in Justin Mitchell. I'll wrestle with him and Coach Kiko.
One of the things I always like to ask seniors is about, trying to leave the program better than when they found it. And I know you have instilled leadership into a lot of the young guys that are coming up in this wrestling room. And I want you to talk a little bit about the underclassmen and what you've seen this year from them. That makes you confident that when you graduate, there's still going to be a lot of leaders in that room, and United is going to be just as successful as ever in wrestling.
I want to give out a good shout out to Chance Cope because he was our 165 this year, and unfortunately did not make it out of sectionals, but he was a district alternate. He just started wrestling as a sophomore, so him doing pretty good and competing at a tough weight class of 165 really shows like his leadership, and I do see him being pretty good next year and helping out the team a lot. So I definitely he's going to help bring that program up a little bit more next year.
Send Scotty, you got something?
Yeah, I got one for you, Dallas. You talked about your underclassmen and their leadership and how you see a bright future for the United program moving forward. But I just wanted to know, like, if there's like a couple words or like a certain style you want to be kind of affiliated with, like what do you want people to say about you once you're all said and done here on the high school level? What are some things you want people to say about you, and maybe like what would you say is your style, or what is your like makeup as a wrestler?
With this, a lot like with football, a lot of the kids have said like you may be mean at some point, like being like really mean to the kids, like about because I'm pushing them harder because I know that they can work hard. And I've always wanted the kids to say that I'm always the hardest worker that they've always seen and look up to me because I'm such a hard worker. And it really just turns in the wrestling is when I'm in the wrestling room, I'm the hardest worker. When we're doing our live goes, I'm going harder than everyone else. I'm wrestling hard. I'm wrestling longer than everyone else. I put in the work after practice, before practice, and I'm just doing all that extra work.
So your freshman and sophomore year, I think you were coming in pretty close to 285. And then last year and this year, I noticed you've been down about 20, 25 pounds maybe. I think I asked you once about that. Do you feel like cutting that weight, that 20 pounds or so, or however much it was, you think that's helped you, especially in these tough, close matches that you really got to dig deep, go all three periods sometimes to overtime? Do you think that's really pushed you up over the top?
Yeah, it really has pushed me up over the top. When I was a sophomore or freshman sophomore, I was real big. I was 285 pure, and I wasn't healthy. I wasn't fast enough. And then cutting that weight down last year as a junior really did help me out a lot into getting stuff done with the team and stuff. And especially for myself, it really definitely helped me out a lot. When I've definitely gotten a lot faster, even turned over to football, it helped me out a lot. I got faster and I got more agile and my footwork got a lot better. And I see that kind of helping me in with going to college here soon, of playing at this lighter weight. I'm not so fat anymore. And then going up to college, I put on that muscle and I'm still as fast as I am now.
We would be remiss if we didn't also ask you about your future endeavors on the career side, what things you want to go for. You know, obviously you're going to YSU to play football, but you also have to go there to be a college student. What kind of career path do you see yourself trying to go into?
When I'm at YSU, I'm going to try and study construction engineering and hopefully I get in the construction field after college, maybe start my own construction business or something to do with that.
Let's go. I like it. The business mindset too. I like it. Make sure if you start your own construction business, come back and be a sponsor of YSN. We'd love to have you.
For sure.
All right. Last question. So your freshman, sophomore year, you said you were right around 285. So I always ask, what, after you've cut some weight, after you've worked hard, what is your favorite post weigh-in meal? We've heard about Twinkies, pomegranate seeds, pickles, a lot of PB&J. Do you have something unique that you eat?
When I was a heavyweight, like when I was much heavier than I am now, and I used to have to cut every morning to make 285, and it was pretty terrible. I'd always, right after, I'd drink like a Pedialyte, and I'd probably eat like a PB&J sandwich, or I munch on some breakfast sandwiches or something.
That's awesome. One more thing before you go, Dallas. We do this with all of our player profiles, no matter the sport. We want to give you the time to take the spotlight off yourself a little bit and shine on your support system, the people that you have in your corner that you really wouldn't be here without. I want to give you the time to give out your shout outs and give people in your life some flowers.
Well, the number one shout out goes to God himself. Like, I couldn't be doing any of this if it wasn't for him. And it goes out to my mom. My mom's been there for me through everything. And then the coaches. Like, the coaches weren't being such great coaches to me and pushing me harder and harder every day in the practice room, in the weight room. And I would not be the person I am today without the coaches nor my mom. And definitely want to give a great shout out to United for letting me represent United down at the state tournament this weekend.
Let's go. We can't wait. I know Chris and Gary are going to be down there in Columbus watching you and all the other YSN guys and girls that we have down there competing for state. Dallas, we wish you the best of luck, buddy. We can't wait to see you bring home a trophy to United, and we look forward to talking to you real soon.
All righty. Thank you so much.
Dallas McCracken from United, one of the great guys that we've had. Man, we've had a lot of great wrestlers. I can't believe it's week 13 already, Gary. And hopefully next week we can bring on one more for our season finale and talk about a state champion.
Yeah, it's been a great year. We've got a lot of great kids that came on, a lot of good answers to these questions. And, you know, one thing about him that I noticed, you could tell that this is it for him. He's not going on to college to wrestle. So you could just see how he was talking, the expressions on his face, that he's really looking forward to this weekend and, you know, finishing up where he wants to with his goals, but he's also going to miss it. You can see that. So hopefully someday he comes back and he's, you know, a football and a wrestling coach.
I want to go back to the comments because we had one that came in that was a question. I think it was probably directed to both you guys about the differences between divisions 1, 2, and 3 wrestling when it gets to this level. Guys, can you put into words on you know what the differences are in these division levels?
Well, when you get to like Division 1, it's the big schools, and obviously, if there's a big school, there's more kids in the school. There's more kids in the school. There's more kids on the team, and the cream's going to rise to the top. And then you get a whole group, hundreds of those schools. You make a division. There is a website called Dubstat that uses an ELO method to rank wrestlers and weight classes, the difficulties on them, and I think the top 10 were all Division 1, and number 11 was a Division 3 school. So yes, traditionally Division 1 is harder than the others. But there are circumstances where that's not true. There are some D3 weight classes sometimes that are more difficult than the D1 in the same weight. But according to that website, which is a really good website, he's been really accurate on his predictions for who's getting out of sectionals and districts. The top 10 are D1.
I think that's globally in every sport. I mean, when you look at like D1 basketball, for example, since we're in the basketball tournaments, yes, there are D3 teams that are better than some D1 teams that could go into D1 and beat some of them. But when you look at as a whole in Division 1, you see so much more widespread talent, so many more teams with maybe even one or two guys or girls that are elite talented because they have such a big pool to pull from that there's a good bet that there's one or two people in your school system that can do something with the basketball. Even if you don't have a great team, you probably have one or two girls or guys that you have to circle on a scouting report if you're Division 1, which you don't see necessarily in the Divisions 3 and 4 when you get lower in the divisions. It's a little bit more heavy weighted towards the top when you talk about talent and how much talent is on a roster.
Absolutely. It makes a huge difference. More bodies, more opportunities, more competition. I mean, it's just, just the way that it goes. You got a guy like Dallas McCracken walking the hallways. If you're a Division 1 school, maybe you've got 3 or 4 or 5 guys his size walking the hallways. Whereas a D3 school, he's probably the biggest kid in his school, I would imagine, or he's pretty close to it. Or if you get some of these other schools, they got 400 or 500 kids per grade. There's going to be a lot of kids that size. It's just more people, more opportunities to have a good athlete.
For what's your take on this?
So yeah, I love the what guys talk about and what Division 1, 2, and 3s mean, but it just comes down to who wants it more, who puts in more work, who wants to get on top of that podium more. I've seen guys that win state champions in D1 that go wrestle D1 in college and never see the lineup. I've seen kids in D3 to win state championships and then go have stellar D1 careers. It's there's a big fine line, like what Gary said, where there's more kids, more athletes, more things to do better, but it's just who wants to work harder, who wants to go to the tournaments, the tough tournaments, who wants to get their butt kicked and then learn off those losses. You win more off of losses than you do off of wins. You learn how to get better, you learn how to change, you learn how to do better, and going to wrestle a tougher, better competition is where you get better. So a D3 kid can do very well at a D1 college, but I'm not taking anything away from D1 kids. You have more, accesses to bigger things. So there's, give and takes for each division, but I just love the sport, and it's going to be a fun weekend to see all 3 divisions. We only have one kid in Division 1. That's Marky Stankorb, wrestling in D1 from Fitch. So it's going to be a fun weekend.
Marky Mark, we've had him on the show. He's a great kid. Can't wait to see what he's able to do. One of the things I want to just point out, because this is awesome, I keep track of the viewerships of each show live, and I try to keep a record of whatever show does, so I can know when my views are going up, when they're going down, et cetera, et cetera. Dallas McCracken just broke the record for most live views on Running Point. We peaked at 53 views live. On across the Facebook, YouTube website, wherever you want to watch it. But yeah, when we say the wrestling community is hungry for content and hungry for exposure and hungry for this coverage, it's being proven in the way that people are coming on and supporting these kids that we're having on Running Point.
No surprise there.
Yep. No, I mean, the whole reason why I wanted to, come back and help YSN with wrestling is to grow the sport. And that's what we're doing with a lot of guys, the views on the stream and building the content. Go follow. I got to plug our thing. Every match we're going to cover at state. We're going to tweet it out, win, loss. We're going to tweet it. It'll be on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. It's YSN Wrestling. That's the Twitter, and then on the Instagram we're gonna have the interviews and whatnot. That's YSN Live _wrestling. So it's doing a lot there. I'm gonna try and get a story out every night for each division, plus the girls division. We're gonna try and do that every night at state, 3 days in a row. It's the best 3 days for wrestling in the state of Ohio. So it's going to be keep saying it's going to be a great weekend, and I promise that we're going to do our best to get the best we can. We're going to get all the photos we can. So yeah, go follow those socials. We'll keep you guys up to date with every match. I've been working my tail off like a dog to try and get everything ready for this weekend, and it's going to be fun.
Let's preview this. I mean, we the numbers are in. We know how many people are going to be at state. We know how many 1 seeds we have. Talk about what we're looking for when we're going to state and these kids that are competing and what we're expecting. And I'm going to leave this to you and Gary because you're obviously preparing for the trip down there. Guys, let's preview state and talk about some of the big names that are going to be heading down there for YSN.
Yeah, for sure. So I actually missed a few wrestlers. So we're up to, so what I have 42. We're up to like 44 wrestlers. I missed 2 guys that I didn't put in my spreadsheet. But yeah, we have 18 teams for the boys and 8 teams for the girls. We have 10 1 seeds, 8 2 seeds, 15 3 seeds, and 16 4 seeds, which is a crazy amount for the small northeast part of Ohio that we cover. Excuse me. It's going to be fun. Beaver Locals coming in with 5 total wrestlers, Louisville with 4, Canfield with 3 for the boys, and then girls, Salem's got 2, East Liverpool's got 2. So it's a lot of teams coming in for the state tournament. Just Northeast Ohio wrestling is grueling. If you place high in that district tournament in our Northeast area, you're going to do well at the state tournament. A lot of kids put in a lot of time and effort. It's going to be a grueling weekend. It's some of those matches, you're 15, 20 minutes apart, and you got to be ready to go back out there and wrestle. So a lot of kids, a lot of coverage. Gary, I'll leave it up to you.
I think it's going to be the names that we're familiar with, the kids that we've had on the show are the ones we're going to watch out for. The ones that have done well, those are the ones that really keep an eye out on. But there will be somebody that'll do what Dallas did last year. Dallas came in as fourth place finisher at district and was 1 point away from being a state champion. He lost 3-2 in the finals. There'll be somebody that comes through like that. Those are the kids that I'm getting excited to watch. The ones that are coming in on fire and peaking at the right time. The ones whose mindset is, I'd rather go out there and leave every single thing on the mat than ever have a regret. That's what makes this tournament special. That's what really I'm looking forward to. And every year you'll see that. I'm hoping that all the YSN kids do well. And I hope that Chris and I are extremely busy because we have a bunch of kids who are winning and moving on. That's what I'm looking forward to.
I also want to give a shout out to one of the guys that I think would be down there if it wasn't for an unfortunate, medical forfeit in the sectionals, and it's from D1 in Hoban. The Feister, Mr. Feister. We saw, unfortunately, he had the medical forfeit after finishing second in the district. Definitely qualified for districts, but probably would have been a guy that we're talking about in state with the season that he was putting together as well.
Yeah, he was predicted to be a state champ. He's a phenom. He really, when I saw that, my heart sunk. I know that had to be tough for him and his family, but the good thing is he's young and he's got time left. And you know what? In the grand scheme of things, this will be a little bit of a stinger of a memory, but it's not going to define anything. He's got a bright future ahead of me.
I don't think you can go through a wrestling career without having to battle some kind of injury and some kind of adversity,
Yep.
All right, so we're excited for state. We can't wait. I think we are about ready to go to a commercial break and transition into the recap of the basketball night last night. We had district semifinals. Do you guys have any last thoughts before we head to state, before we wrap up week 13 of Wrestling Wednesday?
Yeah, I'm going to plug it again. Follow the socials. We're going to keep you guys up to date with everything. We just started up the Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. Just started that up. Go follow that. When I kid you not, we're gonna have a guy up in the stands reporting, sending tweets out after every match. We're gonna have guys on the ground getting interviews and pictures. So follow the Twitter, the X, the Instagram. Follow that all. We're gonna get up to date with, the quickest, fastest we can. We're gonna be live. We're just gonna be spitting results out as fast as we can. So go follow the socials to be up to date with everything.
I will say, if you're going to X or Twitter to search for that social media account, I ran into this a couple of days ago when I was trying to find it on my personal one. You have to search it in all caps or it will not show up on Twitter. So all caps, YSN _wrestling. Twitter, for some reason, who knows what algorithm Elon Musk is using nowadays, but for some reason, if you don't cap it, then it's not going to show up. It's not going to pop up on your search. So make sure you're searching all caps YSN wrestling _wrestling. I should say YSN _wrestling. Follow that Twitter account. Obviously, the YSN account will also be retweeting everything that they put out as well. But give them a follow so they can get boosted and they can have a better chance of being seen by everybody out there too. We can't wait. State for wrestling is this weekend, and then next weekend we'll have girls state. Hopefully we have Springfield in there. They're our last team left, and then hopefully we can get some guys teams into state in 2 weeks too. So wrestling up first.
Hey, Anthony, I want to say one thing. I just want to thank you personally and Scotty for having me on. This is year 3 of Wrestling Wednesday. I love doing this. It's one of the highlights of my week, every week during the season. I love getting on here and talking about this. You and Ty started things up a couple of years ago with this. It's just been a blast, and we're picking up momentum every year. It just seems like we're getting more and more exposure with Chris doing what he does. He's getting the YSN wrestling name out there. But I just like to personally thank you, man. I love doing this, and I'll do this as long as you want me here. Even after I'm done coaching, when I retire coaching, I still have no plans of stopping anything YSN, especially wrestling.
I reflect on the first year we did this with me and Ty, and we knew nothing about the sport at all. We were like, Gary, come teach us.
Yeah.
And I'm sure some of the questions we asked in that first year, where I don't even think we got players on that year. I think our first year was just me and Ty trying to learn the game, learn the sport. Nothing funner than that, buddy. And being able to bring, everyone at YSN's coverage up, because if you know the sport, you can cover it better. You can interview people better if you just know it a little bit. I'm not saying we're an expert at wrestling now, at me and Ty or Scotty, but now because of what Gary and Chris have done, we know the sport enough that we can go interview a wrestler and not sound like we're Joe Schmoes with no idea what we're talking about. So we thank you guys for being able to bring some expertise to the sport. And I also want to shout out the guys that did that for soccer in the fall too. I think soccer is in the same boat wrestling is in the fall, where we were just looking for guys to come to YSN with knowledge of the sport to raise us up. And we've had a couple of guys do that in soccer for the fall sports. Hopefully we get some track and field guys in the spring as well, so we can give another sport that probably doesn't get nearly enough credit or coverage its fair shake in the spring as well.
Hey, you didn't ask me where to use the chair or where the turnbuckle is, so it wasn't that bad.
Yes, we at least knew, thanks to the movie The Pacifier, we knew that it wasn't WWE wrestling.
Yeah, well, it was great, and you know what? A lot of the questions you guys asked, I loved it because they were things that I've thought about in my head a million times, just the scenarios, and it was just great to really get that out there, be able to talk about those things, and like I said, I look forward to this every week. The only regret I have is that it doesn't last longer, but that's the OHSAA's decision, not ours.
We still haven't yet had you demonstrate any moves on Ty. Which,
on Ty? Well,
I think we wanted to get you in the studio at some point.
Yeah, it'll happen someday.
Now we have the whole athletics building that you can do whatever you want in. So we got to get some demonstrations going on.
Give them that Win Dixie.
Yes, please.
There you go, Scotty.
All right, we're going to take a commercial break. When we come back, we have some basketball to talk about. We had 2 games last night, 2 tickets punched to the district championship, and we're excited about it. We'll go and take a commercial break, come back, and talk about those 2 games on Running Point. Brought to you, as always, by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown.
21 News delivers the news as it happens, using the latest technology from where it happens.
Live here outside the Mahoney County.
On air, online,
Wednesday afternoon weather update.
Very dangerous.
and on the 21 News social media platforms.
I'm on the road right now.
21 News, the Valley's only locally owned source for trusted news since 1953.
Craftsmanship to us is 60 years of pride and dedication.
Passed down from generation to generation.
The hardwood floors that your kids take their first steps on.
the solid wood doors you quietly close at night.
The things we create day in and day out are the products that end up turning your house into a home.
At Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods, uncompromising quality and craftsmanship built our business.
And it will keep us moving forward for generations to come.
Going the extra mile at Greenwood Chevrolet means we want to take care of the community that takes care of us too.
And we have to work together always. And that's how you stay in business for 40 years.
You know, I love being a helper because when I help somebody, it makes me feel good.
It means a lot that I can make a difference in others' lives.
So I will do everything I can and just being there for them every step of the way.
I want them to know within the first 5 minutes that they could depend on me. That's what going the extra mile means, only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Before the lights come on, before the workday begins, before a long day is ended, or it's time to have fun. It all starts with the people at Joe Dickey Electric. From replacing a light fixture in your home to building a substation for your business, no job is too big or too small. The people of Joe Dickey Electric power them all. Joe Dickey Electric, over 60 years of powering the Mahoning Valley.
And welcome back to Running Point on ysnlive.com. It is a Wednesday episode, and we are still in the midst of the postseason for boys and girls basketball. Last night we had 2 games, both district semifinals, taking place in divisions 3 and 4, one in Salem and one in Grand Valley. Let's hop over to the scoreboard on ysnlive.com and give it a look. YSN scoreboard always presented by Burdette Pool, Spas, and Hot Tubs. It's a great tool for the YSN fan. Whether you're at one of the games or watching one of our broadcasts, you don't want to look away for too long. And we have a great team behind the scenes that make sure that this YSN scoreboard is live updated so you can quickly find updates on your favorite YSN school. Just 2 games, so the job was easy for our team behind the scenes on the scoreboard last night. South Range and Perry, a rematch of the football playoffs, right? The Perry beat South Range out of the football playoffs and I believe won the state championship, if I'm not mistaken, in Division 5 this year. They go into South Range this year, and basketball gets revenge. Raiders get the win, 58-49. This was not an upset. 12 versus 19. South Range, the higher seed, gets the win. And it was a big night for Landon Moore. Chris, you know Landon Moore. You're a South Range alum, just like I am. 24 points kind of put this team on his back last night and carried them to a district championship game.
Yeah, Landon, he's a kid that he was a stellar football player as well as basketball player. He gave up football actually to dedicate himself to basketball, and I'm so happy and proud for him that it's paying off, and what he's doing is helping his team succeed and go further in the playoffs, which they're doing very well. They have a really good team, got to cover a few of their games this year, and just very proud of what my alma mater is doing so well.
Landon Moore is one of those guys, and you can attribute this too. He must flip a switch or something when he plays basketball because, like, off the court, after the game, real kind of soft-spoken, doesn't like to take credit for himself or anything. Like, when we interview him post-game, he's really just that soft-spoken kid. But when he gets on the court, like, he turns into I'm going to beat you, and I'm going to show you that I'm better than you, and he'll celebrate. He'll have fun on the basketball court. He turns into a different dude, and I love seeing that mentality come out to him when he's on the basketball floor. It feels like he's in his element.
Yeah, he's a silly, goofy dude off the court and just hanging out with him. I've hung out with him a lot. I'm close friends with all those guys, but he's silly and goofy, and but yeah, he's a dog. He's a real dog. He goes real war all the time, and he loves basketball, and I hope he can go to the next level and play basketball. He's a good student, great kid to be around. I'm very happy for him.
I'll tell you what, if you're a college out there and you're not looking at Landon Moore, you're doing something wrong because he's just nothing but dominant everything he does. And they play a really tough schedule at South Range, so you can't say that he's not playing worthy opponents or he's not playing players that are up to his caliber or players that are up to college caliber, because I bet more times than not the teams that they're playing have someone on their roster that will go and play basketball in college at South Range. In the schedule that they put together, Pat Carden does a really good job down there in his first year. They are back in the district championship. They were in there last year against Lutheran East. the big buzzsaw last year in boys basketball. This year they're back in it. They're going to play Cardinal Mooney. South Range still looking for their first ever program district championship in boys basketball. They're trying to accomplish that. And they will play Mooney Friday at 7 o'clock. That is the 4-seed Mooney against the 12-seed South Range. And I think South Range is happy that they finally hit a local team. It seems like the last couple of years, when they get to the district championship, they're hitting Canton Central Catholic, or they're hitting Lutheran East, and now they finally have at least someone that they're very familiar with, and someone that they can say that's in their own backyard, and not even remotely hard to get film on if you're talking about Cardinal Mooney. So a local matchup, a Ysn matchup in the district championship, and we are guaranteed somebody in the regionals, which is always fun. We go into Division 4 down at Grand Valley, a big night for Heartland Christian. They were the 14 seed playing the 2 seed in Bristol, and not only did they win, they won pretty handily. This was not a thriller upset. This was a we're going to dismantle you upset. 12-point victory for the Lions, 55-43 over Bristol. Heartland Christian gets Josh Scott's 200th career win, and on top of that, it's their first program trip to the district finals. I don't think you can ask for a bigger night for Heartland Christian.
This is a team that they beat Lisbon during the season. They beat Salem, a school 10 times their size. It's no surprise to me that they're doing well. I was, had my eye on them. I'm not, a big basketball guy because I don't have time. I follow Wellsville, do the Wellsville games. But this doesn't surprise me at all. Does it surprise you, Anthony or Scotty? Are you guys surprised by this outcome?
No, I mean, Heartland Christian, they're an independent school, which means they can go play whoever they want. They play a lot of the really good teams in Division 4, and sometimes they even go up to Division 3 and 2 to test themselves. And like you said, they've beaten quality teams this year. They beat Lisbon, which was very impressive. I think outside of that sectional final that Lisbon lost in, before that, they were the only team in the state of Ohio to beat Lisbon before that Columbiana game. So Lisbon went a long time without losing to a team in Ohio. The only loss they had this year before that Heartland Christian loss in the season was when they went down to Florida to play during Christmas break. So they went a long time without losing to a state team until Heartland Christian came up and beat them. And then, of course, Columbiana earned the share of the EOAC later on in the season. Now they've lost to a couple of Ohio teams, but that Lisbon team was legit with Trevor Sifke, scoring about 18 or 19 points per game. And Heartland Christian was able to win that one. And now they have the big test. They have Warren JFK coming up on Friday. And Warren JFK has been the cream of the crop in Division 4. But when you beat the 2 seed, then that tells you, hey, you might have a chance at the 1 seed.
Hey, anything can happen, right? I don't know if these guys have played before, if there's a history between the two. I don't know, but did you see this coming, Anthony?
You know what? I thought if they got past their last round against Badger, I thought Badger was just a better team than Bristol, honestly, when you looked at the numbers and the roster. So when they beat Badger, I thought, well, this Heartland Christian team has a real good chance to go beat Bristol. Bristol had the record. The RPI kind of helped them with the seeding. They had the record to go to 2 seed. They earned it with their record. But you look at the teams they play, it's not exactly quite up to the scale of a Bristol schedule. Of a Badger schedule. So honestly, my biggest thought was, can they beat Badger? And they went and they beat Badger. To me, that was a bigger surprise. And this is no diss to Bristol. Obviously, they're a very good boys basketball team in their own right, and they were a 2 seed. They earned that. But I was just a little bit more surprised that their defense handled Bristol the way they did and were able to slow down Duncan Moy the way they did, a lot more than I was surprised. And they went down and beat Bristol in Grand Valley. Now, if they go and beat Warren JFK, that's a statement, because then you're taking down Nick Ryan, Michael Gondolian, Nico Seminaro, Jaden Rischel, all those guys that are doing such great things for JFK. It's not a one-man show. Yeah, for the Eagles. So if your defense goes and has 3 really good games in a row and slows down Warren JFK, then you're doing really something right if you're Coach Scott and the Lions.
Well, it's a testament to having a tough regular season schedule, because once you get to sectionals, what happened in the regular season doesn't matter outside of how prepared you are. So ought to be a good, fun game.
Chris, you said it best when you were talking about wrestling. I think it's the same thing in every sport. You'll learn a little from your losses. And if you're going to go test yourself and get beat every now and then by a team that is preparing you, I think I would like that a lot more than being undefeated and not winning anything, substantial in the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, losing, you learn. See, big thing. I'm gonna go back to wrestling. I know we're done with wrestling, but I always gotta talk about wrestling. If you lose to a kid, and then you're more than likely going to see them down the road. This goes for the team. You have film on them. You know where you guys screwed up. You know where they're good at. You know where you could stop them. So those matches, those games are, they're that much closer. And even you guys could pull through and get that extra bucket, that extra free throw, the extra foul call. You see where their weaknesses and they break down are at, and you can exploit that going in the playoffs.
So Harlan Christian now 16-9 on the season, and they did not play Warren JFK this year, so this will be their first time playing the Eagles this season. But Gary already said they have big wins already on the season, and one of them being Lisbon. They beat Lisbon 70-64. So we'll see what Harlan Christian can do on Friday. That's a 7:00 start in Grand Valley versus Warren JFK. We can't wait for that one. And now we will transition from divisions 3 and 4 to divisions 1 and 2 that are going on tonight and tomorrow. Those district championships would be on Saturday. We will transition the scoreboard to tonight and see what we have going on in the Ysn family for tonight. And as you can see, we have 5 games, and we will start with Ursuline trying to extend their season against Streetsboro. This is a little bit of a mismatch. Seed-wise, Streetsboro did a good job getting to the districts as a lower seed, but Ursuline, the much higher seed and the favorites in this game. But I never count a team like Streetsboro out because they always seem to have really good athletes, and they always seem to have a really good program. So even though the seeds don't really match up, I wouldn't sleep on the Rockets, although Ursuline is just a phenomenal team this year. Poland, they're going to go play CVCA in a matchup in the district semifinals. That one going down in Akron and Akron North. Jefferson is in the Ashtabula County, still alive. They play Lutheran West. East Liverpool has John Glenn. This might be the most competitive matchup seed-wise. This is 4 seed in East Liverpool versus 6 seed John Glenn. That's happening in Harrison Central. And then Louisville taking on Medina in Division 1. Louisville is a team that a lot of people think can make a run to state, so they have a big test trying to get through just a Division 1 district bracket first in Medina tonight. So this is what the schedule looks like. Let's get out to what games will be covered and what announcers will have you covered there tonight on the network. We have all games will be on the network for our pay-per-view package, so one payment of $9.99 will get you access to all 5 of these games. We'll start with Ursuline and Streetsboro being played in Warren Harding. This one's going to be covered by Tim Corso and Eric Hughes. Poland and CVCA happening in Akron North. That's Matt Marr and Noah Ricks on the call there. Jefferson and Lutheran West meeting in North Ridgeville, which is up towards the Cleveland area. Sam Torres and Tyler Hartz are going to be on the call there. Bob Burrick and the Louisville crew are going to follow the Leopards to Alliance as they take on Medina. And then last but not least, the East Liverpool and John Glenn game will be covered by Gary Burton and Scott Rogers. All those games tip off at 7. And once again, one payment of $9.99 gets you access to all of the games. I would suggest, I'm going to take the scoreboard off so we can see our faces again. I would suggest getting your ticket a little bit early in case there are a few technical issues on your end. We can help you fix them before the game tips off. So make sure to get to your virtual tickets and get them before that 7 o'clock tip off. ysnlive.com/live is where you can find it. And no matter what game you click on, if you pay the $9.99, you'll get access for all of them. So click on your game or another game. Either way, you'll get access to all 5 of them. I think that's a great deal. You're paying just about the same that you would just to get into the game on a OHSA ticket, and then you get to watch all 5 of them.
I don't know where you get a better deal than that. I don't know how you get a better deal than that, but
you can't go to Dollar General and get a better deal than that.
No, you can't at all. And hey, Ysn's still providing coverage And as the teams that are there dwindle down, there should be more people at home. So if you don't have anything going on, watching a game tonight on YSN sounds like a good idea to me.
Support your area teams, man. That's what you have to do. If you're not playing anymore, nothing better than supporting someone that's representing your area. Scotty, we have a little bit of time. We do. And I want to make sure we get to your section of the show and give you what we always give you, which is what's on Scotty's mind. We have about enough time for one question or one topic you want to bring up.
Okay, sure. So I wanted to bring up today, we did a lot on wrestling, which was so great. But you just mentioned the basketball and some of the outcomes, and the games. They really some dandy games and matchups to look forward to. I think when you look at Mooney going against South Range, I think that's gonna be I think, like you put it perfectly, Anthony. I think South Range is just happy to face another local team, and they're always ready. So Mooney definitely, like, they gotta play a great game, and there's a lot of games I'm really looking forward to. I think that Heartland Christian and what they were able to do. Um, like you, I wasn't really that surprised, but what surprised me a little bit was the fact that they they didn't really have a guy that had an amazing scoring night, but at the same time their attack was so balanced with Jake Walker, Isaiah Matthews, and then they also had Brody Conaway as well, who had a really good game. So, with all that being said, I just wanted to get your guys' opinion on this time of year, because games are so close. Would you rather have, like, your star player, like the leader of the team, like as a coach, do you just say, okay, if our guy has his way, if he can get off here and put up like a 20 some 30 burger, like it could really help us out? Or do you like when guys you get those little smaller contributions from everybody, and you're not getting 20 points, but you're getting 9 and 8 from several different players? What do you guys think when it comes to this late in the tournament? What would you rather have?
Well, balanced offense is always easier to stop, harder to stop than one that's centered around one guy. I mean, I don't care what sport you're talking about. You can talk about football. You can talk about having multiple receivers you have to guard. Talk about basketball. You can talk about baseball, having more than one guy in the lineup that you have to pitch to. Balance is always harder to defend. So I would always want a balanced team, a balanced offense. But there is something to be said about having one guy they can play takeover basketball and just say, you know what, we need the points. I'm gonna put the team on my back and I'm gonna go score. And then to have that guy is invaluable as well, especially in close games.
Hey, everybody has a bad night, and having a couple of guys that can step up when it's needed. I don't know. I'm not a basketball guy, but you see it in every sport. Everybody has a bad day, or you'll have a coach that'll figure out defense to stop you. Having somebody else to rely on, I think, is invaluable, because if you just everything's on one person, after a while things start to tape comes out on you. Defenses catch up, and sometimes that person slows way down the second half of the season.
Yeah, you could have a team that has 2 or 3 D1 athletes that are going to go play at the next level. But if you have a really good team around you that you have a bunch of D2, D3 guys that can just be some dogs down there. I'd rather take a team that plays like a team than not one player. Coach Yeagley always said he wants a team, not one player. So that's what I want.
Yeah, and the other thing I'll say is when you're dealing with basketball, I think it's more and more evident that we're seeing more and more kids be okay with sacrificing a couple of points here and there to get the better shot. I think you're seeing a lot more unselfishness from basketball players in the last several years. I don't know if that's because of AAU being exposed to kids that are just as good as you are in the off season, or maybe just really good coaching in the Ysn family in the last couple of years. But I'll tell you what, I think that the sport of basketball is seeing a lot more even play when you're talking about playing as a team unity in the last several seasons. That's why we're not having guys that are averaging 26 per game anymore. You're seeing a lot of teams with guys that might have 3 or 4 that are averaging, in the double figures at 11 or 12, because we are seeing guys more and more willing to be, those good teammates that get other people's looks and facilitate the basketball a little bit more.
Yeah, I think so too. I do think, if you could have the one player go off, or you have to game plan so hard to make sure it does, allow you to do that and have that balanced.
Here's some coaches counter to that, Scotty, and I just saw it in the district semis of the girls where St. V's is playing Marlington, for example. Marlington has Kelsey Evanich, who is a division, college superstar. She's going to go play at the next level. But because of some graduates last year, a lot of her supporting cast, underclassmen that maybe never really been in that stage before. So St. V's was like, okay, Chelsea, you're going to score. And we're not going to let you score necessarily, but we're not going to do extra effort to stop you. We're going to make sure that your supporting cast doesn't score anything. And she had 30, and Marlington as a team had like 39. So there are a lot of teams that will use that. We'll be like, hey, you know what? You're going to score. We're not going to worry about it, but no one else on the team is going to help you. And that's going to be our defensive mindset. And sometimes in basketball, that'll work out in your favor too.
Yeah, that's, they used to do that with the great players of the past.
Yep. A lot of people did that to Dationette Harris from Ursuline too. Like, hey, you're going to go score 28 because, you're just a phenomenal player, but your supporting cast is not going to beat us.
Yeah, and I think it's easier said than done to just kind of let you got to have everyone buying in, and they got to come with that tenacity if they're going to shut down the other parts of a team, the people that are gritty and kind of always scrap and fight and claw for those points. It's hard to totally eliminate guys like that sometimes, but if you could contain the star and you don't let them go absolutely crazy, it really, you see them more and more now with these balanced attacks. If you're able to cut out so much of the bench or the other key contributors, it goes so far in helping you to get that victory.
Yep, like I said, the only drawback I ever see to a team that's kind of balanced with a lot of guys that are scoring maybe 8 a game is, if you're in a little bit of a scoring drought, sometimes those teams don't have that one player that just steps up and says, you know what, we need it, I'm going to go get it. But sometimes they do. South Range, I think, is a really good example. They have really good balance. They have nights where they have Dylan Turvey score a lot. Luke Rowan can go off from the perimeter. Nate Lewis is a great point guard. But they also have nights when if they're struggling to score, Landon Moore can just say, I'm going to take over this game. I'm going to put it on. And he did that last night as well, 24 points. So that's a great example of being able to have both. And you don't have to have the best of – you don't have to have one or the other. You can have the best of both worlds in that situation.
And someone made a great point too. They just dropped a comment When Caitlin Clark for Iowa scores 45 or more, Iowa is winless. So
Right.
there you go.
There you go. Mike Swinehart always with the nugget. Yeah, he's great at that. Caitlin Clark, probably the best women's basketball player we've ever seen.
Is any real quick? You could say yes or no, Anthony, because I know we're out of time. But is anyone close to her in your mind?
I think Paige Beckers would be that kind of phenomenal talent if she didn't get injured a couple of times in her collegiate career, because she's doing the same kind of things. Not the same style of basketball player, but scoring wise for UConn. I think if she didn't get hurt a couple of times in her collegiate career, she might be able to put up those same kind of numbers because of what she's been able to do just on the basketball level. So I think we're in a great era of basketball right now on the women's side. So yeah, I think Paige Beckers is right there, but a couple of injuries have slowed her down. She's going to come back next year for UConn for her 5th year of eligibility, and then she'll be a great WNBA player after that. So yeah, I think there are some players that are close. Angel Reese from LSU obviously beat Caitlin Clark in the championship last year. So there are players that are close, but Caitlin Clark has just been doing things that, we've never seen from a girls basketball player before. So I think it's the GOAT. I'm not going to deny that. I think that's the GOAT of women's basketball, Caitlin Clark. You can argue other stuff. I know other people have argued other stuff. For me, as a fan of the sport, I think it's Caitlin Clark hands down. And I will end the show by saying that with a great hardline opinion right there. This has been Running Point, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. Want to thank Dallas McCracken for giving us his time for episode 13 of Wrestling Wednesday. We want to thank Gary and Chris, obviously, for coming on Wednesdays as well to talk about wrestling. Scotty always on every Wednesday. And then we'll be back next week for our final episode of Wrestling Wednesday to recap the state tournament. It's going to be a fun one. We always like to have a fun season finale. Hopefully we can get a state champion on with us as well. Going to be a fun time. Thank you everyone for watching. Make sure to tune into the games tonight. YSNlive.com/live is where you can find them. Running Point.